hairs on my body started standing on end.
Silent. Nothing there.
I fought to get back into my body.
You are going to be of vital importance of helping us convince the masses.
Type 471.
Type 471.
Bridge to the other world.
Bridge to the other world.
Welcome to Type 471. I'm Sam Kitchen. So my guest today is Brianne Vega. Now, she currently lives out of state, but she did, at the time of her experiences, live right here in Siskiyou County, and her experiences happened in an area that just so happens to be of particular interest to me for some very specific reasons. So I'm very excited to hear from Brianne today. Brianne, welcome to Type 471. How you doing today?
I'm good, man. How's it going?
I'm doing well, thank you. Now, your experiences, they're I can't wait for everybody to hear about it, quite frankly, because they're amazing. So let's jump right into it.
Cool.
So let's start at the beginning. What happened first?
So me and an ex of mine decided to go out mudding one night after a rain. And we were in the Jeep, and we decided to go out behind the Taco Bell out by Southweed. It's got some really cool jumps, some good mudding area out by the railroad tracks out by that way. And so we were headed out that direction, past Taco Bell, rolling really fast, probably going like 40 miles an hour on the dirt roads. And we were hitting jumps, and all of a sudden I kind of saw a being of some sort running along the Jeep with us. And at first it was kind of like, there's a lot of homeless out there. So at first it was kind of like, what the hell is that? And I started looking. And of course, my ex at the time, he's driving. So he's full on focused on the road, trying not to crash. And I look over and I recognize a bodily figure of something. I couldn't call it really a humanoid because it didn't really have everything that a humanoid should have. It didn't have any hair. It didn't have any genitalia, any kind of anatomy there. It was just a really, really pale skinned figure. You could see the facial features of it. You couldn't distinguish male or female by any sorts of anyway. It was pale white, almost like a translucent being, but you could actually not see through it. So it was running along the side of the Jeep, which was pretty crazy at that because we're going like 35, 40 miles an hour. And mud is splatting everywhere. And this thing is maintaining its ability to run next to us through the wooded area next to the road. And I looked at him and I was like, slow down, slow down. And we slowed down, but it didn't slow down. And it came in front of the Jeep and just stopped in front of the Jeep and stared at us both. And we both looked at each other and looked at it, and it just took off into the woods. I ran across the railroad tracks, took off towards the woods. And then I had another sighting, I guess you would call it. And I was climbing Black Butte. I had tried to climb Black Butte before, and I had gotten elevation sickness, which was kind of weird because I am a mushroom picker. So I'm used to going up to high elevations above 9,000 feet. And I've never once ever gotten any kind of elevation sickness. I mean, we're climbing thousands of feet quickly, and I've never had elevation sickness. But I always got elevation sickness. So it was my thing to conquer this mountain. And I got up there about halfway, and I started feeling sick. And it was about the rocky point of Black Butte. And I started feeling sick. And of course, I knew this feeling before. So it was like, all right, I'm not going to make it. And I started turning back, and I stopped at a rock, and I grabbed my water bottle, and I started drinking water. And when you level your head out, you kind of have full vision of the surrounding. and I see one close to a tree watching me. Same figure, same exact identical, just a little bit smaller, which I mean, from further away, it could have been the same size, you know? And yeah, and it was like, oh shit, here it is again. All right, this is happening again. Kind of creepy because I was by myself, which is a creepy feeling, you know, whereas the last time I was with somebody. So, and it had no intentions to hang around the last time, it seemed. And so I started walking down the mountain at a little bit of a quicker pace, kind of keeping an eye. And it was keeping an eye through the forest with me. And I had made it down to the parking lot area. And as soon as I hit the unlock button on my vehicle at the time, it shot out through the woods. So I kind of felt like it was different experiences both times with different intentions of it showing itself, but I do have those experiences. Yeah, I've heard of them being called skinwalkers. I'm not sure really what I saw. I'll be completely honest with you. We may never know really what people see, but that was my experience.
Right. Yeah. So this is an incredible experience. I have a lot of thoughts about it. First of all, as you were descending the mountain, as you were descending Black Butte, what behaviors did you notice? Like, what was it doing as you were coming down the mountain?
Kind of suspicious of me, like, and I'm sure if there is it's normal living spot, I'm sure it sees people not get elevation sickness and not have any worries. So I kind of felt like it was a mix between suspicion and kind of looking out for me in a way to make sure that I was going to make it down the hill safely in a way. Which is, it's strange that it's happened 2 times, you know, it kind of makes you, after it happens once, 1 time is enough, but 2 times it kind of makes you wonder, you know, like, do I have something that's looking out for just me? But I did never have it happen after that. So I don't know. I guess maybe it was looking out for me to come down the hill safely. Who knows?
Right. So after that experience, did you go back to Black Butte and did you experience altitude sickness again?
Yeah, I always went back with other people after that. That was kind of a scary moment for me being alone out there with it. So I always managed to go out with other people. And yeah, I actually went out with a group of friends one night and then I ended up getting the same altitude sickness, quote unquote, if that's what you want to call it.
Right. Yeah, that's so strange because Black Butte is only 7,000 feet high, and you mentioned you've been up at much higher elevations than that.
Right. Yeah, here in Arizona, I live in Arizona now, and we go up frequently to a spot that's over 9,000 feet, and it's got a 2,000 feet incline and then 30 minutes, you know? So if I can gain that much incline that quickly in a vehicle nonetheless and not get altitude sickness. I've been in the mountains climbing mushrooms and I've been above 9,000 feet and not been sick. So I can't really say if it's altitude sickness because that's the only time I've really gotten it.
You know, someone recently told me that there are jets of sulfur that come out of Black Butte, and I wonder if that might be a factor. I wonder if some sulfuric fumes might have been getting to you. Did anything smell sulfury?
Not that I remembered, but you know, I grew up in the area. I'm not really thinking about anything abnormal when it's your home area. You know what I mean? So I could have and not even realized it.
Sure. Yeah.
I didn't smell any rotten egg kind of feelings or smells or, you know, so it could be a possibility for sure. Just like anything could be.
Well, Black Butte is a cinder cone for Mount Shasta. Both of them are volcanic, of course, and yeah. So I just, you know, maybe any number of gases could be seeping out of there at any given time. Who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there are so many things that happen right here in Siskiyou County around Mount Shasta, and which is the whole reason I moved to this area because of the phenomena that occur here. And so many different kinds of beings are reported. You mentioned skinwalkers, and also people report beings who live inside the mountain. There are legends of Lemurians who still to this day live inside the mountain, according to some. And there are just all manner of phenomena that occur here. I've received reports of reptilian humanoids in the area. So I know that you could only speculate at this point, but what are your thoughts as to what the nature of these very pale beings may have been?
Well, it's crazy because I mean, there's a lot of different ecosystems. You got a lot of cave systems. You've got a lot of deep forests. It's a lot of different ecosystems, and there's a lot of untouched land in that county that I'm sure not anybody has seen it. And there's a lot of room for things to be able to evolve into something that we might not understand. I know that there's a lot of Indian reservation and a lot of Indian history that goes along in Siskiyou County, and there's theories that go along with that. I think that Siskiyou County is full of a lot of mysterious things. It's got a lot of magical energy, especially by the Mount Shasta and Black Butte area. I feel like it's very, very fluent. You can feel it change in the air. There's a vibe and energy to it that I do think that attracts normal human beings. So if it doesn't if it can attract normal human beings, then it's going to attract things that might be in a different spiritual realm.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, I have a theory about Mount Shasta, and I'm far from the only person who has this theory, but essentially my feeling is that Mount Shasta acts as a natural pyramid because of the deep volcanic activity occurring beneath the mountain and the mineral content of the mountain. I feel that the volcanic activity may cause the minerals in the mountain to vibrate, and it's kind of broadcasting a heightened signal, perhaps, for that may draw or allow for certain types of phenomena that occur usually in certain realms to occur in the vicinity of Mount Shasta.
I could truly believe that. I mean, I am from a family of generations that have grew up in weed, and I honestly can say that people that have left always say you'll leave, but you'll always come back. There's something that's always going to pull you back. And I know that a lot of my age group, we left and we came back. There's not a lot to come back to economical wise, but yet we still find ourselves back in Siskiyou County. And it's just something that I guess not as only is it comfortable, it's just something we know. It's not scary for people to live there if they're aware of what they're living with, and the vibes and the energy and everything that there is to be around Siskiyou County.
I'm a relative newcomer to this area. I've only been here for a couple of years, but I love the energy of this place. Like it's got this.
It's very raw.
Yeah. I like that way of putting it. It is very raw. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's ancient. It's ancient and raw, and it's got this this primal but beautiful feeling to it.
Right, and then lots of secrets to be withheld. There's a lot of land that people don't know anything about. I feel like, I mean, even me, there's places that I haven't seen and I haven't experienced, and the more you're out in nature, the more receptive you are to that kind of feeling that you have in that area.
Yeah. So back to these beings. So
yes,
you there was no indication of any genitalia whatsoever, right?
No, none. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm not sure if you said this or not, but did you happen to notice if there was a belly button?
No, I didn't notice any belly button either.
Right. And so there was nothing particularly distinct about the face other than, the lack of hair and the pale skin. You didn't notice anything? Yeah. Huh.
No structure. I mean, there were eye sockets visible, something within the eye sockets. I don't know if you would call them eyes, but it wasn't it wasn't like a normal being. It wasn't structurally built like a human being. Definitely the strangest, creepiest thing that I've ever experienced.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely don't talk about it very much. That's for sure.
Huh. Well, I'm really glad that you've talked to me about it. This is an incredible story. And, I want to share a couple of things. First of all, that exact area where you had your experiences, has become to me a very important area because I feel that it is an important travel route for the Sasquatch. And I know that this experience of yours isn't directly related to the Sasquatch, but still, it catches my attention because it speaks to something about the area itself, perhaps.
Right.
And what's more, I also want to share with you that I do go into that area not infrequently, and I hear voices in there. Now, I know there are a lot of people back there. I know the like you said, people go back there to ride, dirt bikes and, like...
Oh, yeah.
Right, all sorts of stuff like that. And I'm perfectly aware of that. And like I said, the train tracks...
And back when I was a kid, there was a big homeless encampment that was back there. And, I mean, there was a lot of things that when you wanted to do something bad, you went back there because you were free of everybody looking at you, those roads go forever. If you take those roads, they go forever. And you can get just about anywhere back there in those roads. You can get all the way to Mount Shasta, the other side of Mount Shasta, in those back roads. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that I'm sure have happened out there. And I'm sure there's a lot of energies that are feeding off the land, So I don't doubt you one bit thinking that you are fully hearing voices.
Right. Yeah. And what I'm hearing, I think is distinct and separate from the human activity in the area. Like, I'll know where I am. I'll know if I'm close to the train tracks or if, or if there are people around and stuff like that. And the things that I keep hearing are very different than just normal human voices or activity. I keep hearing like I'll begin to hear what sounds like people talking, and you can just almost make it out, and then just as quickly as it appears, it'll fade away. Like it'll just very quickly fade away. So it's not the same sort of sounds that you hear associated with human activity. And this is something that I hear there not infrequently. And it's not the only place where I hear this, but it is a place where I do hear it frequently.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's just one of the things. There's something about that spot. There is something about that spot. Yeah. And so that's why, that's one of the reasons why I'm so glad to talk to you about this. I mean, this is important. This is an important little piece of the puzzle, it seems to me.
Right on.
Yeah. And so now, as I mentioned, you live out of state. You're in Arizona now. You've had other experiences in Arizona, haven't you?
Yeah, I've had an experience out in the desert out here. I try not to get too much into this story because I still am actively living out here, and so I try not to talk too much about it, but I was close to the Salt River area. I will say that. It's a very it's on reservation land, Indian reservation land. So I think there is something to the culture backdrop of it. I have talked to some of the tribal people out here about it, and I start talking about, paranormal stuff. They're all for it. The moment that I start asking about, I bring up the word even skinwalker, I get shut down. Nobody wants to talk to me anymore. It's a very scary subject for them. So, which I can relate to. I mean, you're the only person that I've really talked to about this in any kind of way. It's this very scary experience that I went through. So, yeah, I guess they've seen it more than they'd like to. So they don't want to talk about it. Maybe there's some kind of culture backdrop where if you talk about it, they'll come more frequently to you. I'm not sure. But I do know that the reservations out here and everything like that also has a very, very spiritual, weird, paranormal vibe to it out here. it's a very interesting energy out here in the desert. That's for sure.
Right, it sure is. I'm familiar with Arizona myself, and yeah, there is an energy out there for sure. And
Right.
I appreciate you mentioning this to me, and I totally respect your desire to not really get into that too much. So that's perfectly fine. Well, Brianne, I thank you so much for sharing your experience with me, the one that occurred here in Siskiyou County near Mount Shasta.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you for joining me today on Type 471, Brianne. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Awesome, man.
All right. You have a good one.
You too.
My next guest today is Babs. Now, Babs had quite an interesting encounter or experience of sorts in the Klamath Falls area, or in Klamath County, Oregon, which neighbors Siskiyou County, borders on Siskiyou County. Babs, welcome to Type 471. How you doing today?
Good.
Good. So, walk me through this experience from the beginning, if you would, please.
Yeah. Well, it was just a normal day, pretty much. We ended up. It's actually near Klamath Lake, so it's kind of in the middle of Siskiyou County and Klamath. So it's kind of practically in the middle of nowhere. So we had gotten to the campsite, and it was pretty much normal. Like, we all set it up, had a normal day out, and I had taken my dog out around the area. It was like 45 feet away from the campsite near the lake, and it was just normal up until night hit. It was around, I would say, 1 o'clock, maybe 3 o'clock, a little fuzzy, but I was alone in my car because I don't really sleep in tents, and everyone else were in tents, and I kind of just stayed inside the tent, and I was awake most of the night, and all of a sudden I just felt like a ginormous nudge up against the car, kind of like a group pushing up against the car or something. And then I just kind of looked outside, like I kept shining my light outside, and because the windows were dark, I didn't really see, so I had got out of the car, and there wasn't really anyone to see. I didn't see anybody outside. I looked around. I walked around the car a couple times. There was no one there, so I went back in the car. Maybe like an hour or two later, I fell asleep, and then everyone got up the next day, and I took my dog out again, and the same place where I took him near the lake the day before, he had, like, we had passed the same spot, and there was, I guess, 4 holes that were they're like lined up, and there was twigs, logs, and they're just in a peculiar space set up so weirdly, like someone was going to build something kind of primitive, and we just kind of thought it was really weird, and we packed everything up and left because that was just so peculiar to us.
Yeah, that is somewhat bizarre. First of all, this nudging of the car, if we can back up a moment, did this happen once, or did this happen more than once?
This happened, like, I would say a few times, like 3 at the most.
Okay, over the course of how long would you say?
I would have to say between like 1 o'clock to 4 in the morning.
So it happened like maybe, like every couple hours, or every hour and a half or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that is somewhat interesting. I do have to ask, do you know if this is near like open range? Like, are there cows wandering around or anything?
I do know that like somewhere, I'd say 56 miles away, there's like a cattle range, but yeah, I wouldn't know if they traveled that far.
And it was like 50 miles from where you were. And did you see any cows around that day?
No.
Okay. All right. And I would think if a cow had done this, then like you'd still be able to see the cow. It's not like the cow's going to do this and then like, hide and then come back and do it, like,
right.
Yeah. So that doesn't a cow seems unlikely. But and then I want to know more about this, about the holes and the logs. So I want to get a better visual of it. Can you help me to understand it more in a visual sense? What did it look like more?
Okay, so think about if you're drawing four holes, right? And it's like here's a part of a hill, and there's a like rate it's like maybe like 3 feet. It's a 3 foot hill, and then right next to it is the holes. Right where the hill starts is there's two holes, and then right in front of those are the other two, and then right next to them is the twigs and all of the logs and stuff. It is kind of hard to explain, but I don't know.
Yeah. How large were these logs and limbs and stuff?
I would say about the size of maybe like a motorcycle tire.
Oh, you mean that big around?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty big. And how long were they?
Huh. I'm not good with that.
Well, that's okay. Just kind of a ballpark, like.
Yeah, okay. Say maybe like 15 feet.
Oh, okay. So those are pretty big pieces of wood.
Yeah.
No, okay. Did you happen to notice if they had been cut or if they had been broken?
They were definitely broken.
Oh, well, that's interesting. Huh. And so there were two holes kind of closer to the hill, and then two holes kind of further down, away from the hill. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it was so like right after the first two holes that were closer to the hill, it was like directly in front of the others, and closer towards the lake.
And were they kind of symmetrically positioned holes? Like was there some sort of pattern to how they were positioned? Like were they equidistant from one another?
Yeah, I would say so.
So you hadn't noticed any of this earlier in the day, right?
It was weird. The day before, it just, I don't know if I was like just blind or something, or just missed it, but it definitely wasn't that the day before.
That's interesting. And you had been camping. You had been there during that period of time, and there was no one else around with you, I imagine?
Yeah, we were the only ones there.
Well, that is pretty interesting. I don't know what to make of it. Don't have an answer for you, but I'm glad you glad you spoke with me about it today. I appreciate you speaking with me today, Babs, on Type 471. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you have a good day.
My final guest today is Jamie Weston. Now, Jamie has told me about some very interesting experiences, Sasquatch-related and otherwise, and I'm very anxious to get into that today. Jamie Weston, welcome to Type 471. How's it going?
It's going. Thanks, Sam.
All right, good. So let's just start from the beginning. You told me about some experiences, and maybe there are others that you haven't told. I'm sure there are others that you haven't told me about, but whatever the beginning is, let's just start there, shall we?
The beginning of paranormal in general, or?
Yeah, actually, yeah. It doesn't have to. We don't have to start with Sasquatch, but beginning with whatever you think the beginning is, Bigfoot or paranormal, what either way.
When I was little, my grandma Jo used to take us up on the mountain to watch for aliens. She'd have a whole group of people that would go up there and spot the difference between an aircraft and a UFO. So that was fun. Kind of got me into not wanting to mess with aliens at all.
Yeah, I hear you on that.
There was a big group of locals that would go up on a weekly basis with her. I don't remember exactly all their names off the top of my head, but if anyone locals listening to this, they'll know.
Sure. Yeah. I think that's been going on for quite some time. I mean, the mountain has its reputation and has the experiences, has the phenomena that happen around the mountain. So yeah, I mean, it's been going on.
She started that back in the 50s.
Oh wow.
A group of people would go up and look. She didn't stop that until I would say 96, when she started getting sick. She started not being able to go up on the mountain anymore.
Yeah.
And then Sasquatch, That happened when I believe I was 12 or 13.
Well, just to back up a second, what kind of things did you see when you went out looking for unusual craft on the mountain?
Well, it was the difference between how they would fly, because the usual aircraft doesn't stop in the sky, and a usual airplane doesn't stop.
Sure, yeah, I've seen this myself. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and the different lights, the difference between the lights, like they have the blinking red or white lights on an airplane, and then some of the UFOs would have multicolored lights or just one single bright light. The shapes, if we could see the shapes from where we were at, it just depended on the moon phase that we were out there and what you could see in the sky and what you couldn't see in the sky.
I can appreciate what you're talking about. I've seen similar things myself. So you were about to mention something when you were 12.
Yeah, that's the experience I told you about, where we were out at my grandma Wynn's friend's house, Barbara Ward and Phil Ward's house. They had a bed and breakfast called the Bigfoot Ranch, and it was aptly named that.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was aptly, named for that reason, but I was walking their Potbelly Pig, and my grandma and Barbara were on the back porch having their adult drinks. They usually just add one or two, and then they drink tea and have biscuits or whatever. But I was walking the Potbelly Pig out into the field by the apple orchard, and the Potbelly Pig started acting weird. And I looked up, and like I described to you, it was like an Andre the Giant in a gorilla suit, kind of looking like a gorilla kind of suit, but it wasn't a gorilla. It wasn't Andre the Giant.
No, I wouldn't think so.
And it huffed. It made a growling noise at the Potbelly Pig and me, and the Potbelly Pig took off with me attached to it. And I got dragged through the apple orchard all the way to the house.
Wow.
Which was good. I mean, it was maybe like 15 feet in front of me in the manzanita bush. And it was taller than the manzanita bush. Off of my memory, it traumatized me a little bit because it was scary. And I just heard Barbara and my grandma start screaming because they seen it too. And I just remember Barbara saying they were usually not out at this time of the day. So she'd seen them a couple times, but I guess she'd never gotten close to them like I had, unfortunately, done.
Yeah, that's incredible. How far were you dragged by the pig to the house?
Probably a good 100 or so feet.
Well, you must have gotten a little banged up.
Like I got pretty banged up. I had scratches and gashes and bruises, and it was entertaining. Now that I think about it, but back then it wasn't.
Now, I'd like to understand the location of the former Bigfoot Ranch. I know that it's not there anymore, but where is this exactly in Mount Shasta?
It'd be off of North Old Stage.
Is it kind of near the reservoir, that dry reservoir?
The Abrams Lake?
No, the place where when you're driving down North Old Stage, there's this area where there are a bunch of stumps in a dry meadow that.
Oh, that's Hammond. Yeah, I think it's around in that area by Hammond Ranch.
So it's kind of near there, and
Yeah.
So was it kind of back toward that mountain range back there?
Yeah, by the eddies.
Yeah.
It's off the bottom of the eddies.
So tell me as much as you can about the appearance of this individual.
Like the appearance, he was black. He had long hair, longer, not like long hair, but I would say like 3 or 4 inches long hair. Obviously not a human. His head was domed. He had a big furrowed eyebrows, like a Neanderthal kind of. So like his eyes were kind of inset, and I can't remember what color his eyes were.
So it was his hair that was black, or were his hair and skin?
His skin and his hair were black.
I know you compared him to Andre the Giant, and I know he was taller than the manzanita bushes. So about how tall do you think he was?
Like 8 or 9 feet at least, because I mean the manzanita are You've been out in the Manzanita. They get pretty tall.
Sure. Yeah.
And it was taller than I was when I was 12. So
And did you see how much of his body did you see?
I saw his upper torso, like where his biceps were, and his shoulders and his head.
The people on the farm, on the ranch, had experienced a lot on the property Sasquatch related. Do you know anything about their experiences?
Just them watching them eat apples in the evening, from what I recall from Barbara and Phil telling me about it. My grandma had never seen anything like that before, so it kind of blew her mind.
Yeah, I would think so. What time of year was this experience of yours?
It was, I believe, in the fall.
And what time of year? Do you know what time of year they would see them eating the apples?
Right around then, when the apples were ripe, and the blackberry bushes were usually ripe around then too.
Do you know if there are still apple orchards back there in that area?
I think so. I know there's some still growing out on the ostrich farm, which is across the street from the Nazarene Park, or from the Nazarene Church.
So you've had other experiences as well. Like you mentioned working at the Mount Shasta Veterans
Vets
Bar.
Club.
Yeah, Vets Club, yeah.
Yeah, that place is haunted. Very haunted. There's you can hear people talking that when the bar is closed. People going up and down the hallway, upstairs. One of them is a very angry spirit. I don't know exactly what makes him mad, but sometimes he destroys the DJ booth in that area. You can hear him throwing stuff, and like, it's a weird, I don't know how to explain it exactly, but you can tell that he's angry, and it makes you scared, and all your hair stands on end, and you don't want to go in that room. You know better to not go in that room. Kind of like when you feel a predator out in the woods, like a mountain lion or bears nearby.
Yeah.
Kind of that feeling you get from that spirit. He pushed me on the stairs when I was doing a run up the stairs for supplies for the bar. He pushed me on the stairs one time, and I was really lucky I had a bunch of paper towels and stuff in my arms, because that's what caught me on the bottom of the stairs on the door.
Wow.
Like I felt his hand push me in on the middle of my back, just shoved me.
That's awful. And I guess there was nobody physically around?
No, I was just me and my boss at the time. My boss was downstairs doing the finishing up of the bar, and he heard me go down the stairs, and he opened the door and was like, "Are you all right?" And I just kind of fell out because I'd fallen down the stairs. I'm like, hold on a minute. I'm like, let me just lay here and catch my breath. I'm like, no, I'm not okay.
Yeah, that is awful. Well, is there a particular time of day or night when this tends to happen more?
Sometimes it's all day. It'll go on and off all day. There's no particular time that they are more than other parts of the day. Because we've had stuff happen in the very opening time, which is noon. We've had stuff happen before in there.
So I guess it can go on just about at any time. So yeah, I'm just kind of mulling it all over here because I'm just trying to compare and contrast to other things that I'm familiar with. And so okay, trying to kind of solve a riddle here, a mystery.
That bar is burned down like 5 times, I believe. When Whiskey Row would burn down, every time Whiskey Row burned down, that bar burned down, and they had to rebuild it.
What are the causes of these fires? Do you know?
No, I'm not sure. That'd be the museum would know that. There's a historical society too that knows all that stuff. My cousin Penny Bloodheart actually is involved with a lot of that. She's a plethora of knowledge.
Well, thanks for pointing that out to me. That would be a good source of information. So, are there any other experiences that you'd like to share today?
We lived in another house. It doesn't exist anymore. In Weed. And that one was really haunted too. Me and my stepsister at the time were sitting at the kitchen table. You know those Chevron cars that they used to sell for collectibles with the weird faces on them?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
We had a collection of those in a shelf, and about 3 of them decided to shoot off of the shelf at us while we were sitting at the table. Then we had a stack of cards that exploded. Someone decided to play 51 card pickup, but it was none of us that decided to do that. That just went everywhere. And then there was an old lady figure that would go across the downstairs of it. And she was I would say like a nightgown, an old-fashioned nightgown from like the late 1800s, I would say. She would walk across the floor and look in the rooms, in all the different rooms of the basement area. And I'd see her every couple of nights. I didn't stay down there for very long.
That must have been, how did you feel about that?
Freaked out. Like, she didn't have like any bad vibes to her, but it just freaked me out because I didn't know who she was. Didn't enjoy being stared at by a random see-through old lady.
Yeah, I can appreciate that might be a little unsettling for you.
Yeah. And then my mom was of Native American heritage, so she'd smudge the house with sage every once in a while, and it'd stop for a while, and then it would start up again, and she'd have to do it again. And then my stepsister also had experiences of what she called the cowboy, and he would pinch her in different areas of her body randomly, and she'd smell this really musky old cigar smell, like super strong, whenever he was around, and then something would happen to her and she'd scream and flip out. And yeah, he never bothered me. I'd smell him, but I never got pinched or anything by him. That was on Main Street, on Weed Main Street, when you go down by the gas stations and you go under the sign, and there's the what is it called, the City Information Center, and then you see those weird little the benches. They're like art benches, and there's a gate right there that used to be down into our yard. That house got torn down. That was where our house that I'm talking about used to be.
I see. Yeah, I know the spot you're talking about.
We used to have a couple apple trees down in there too in our yard, and the creek used to go through it, and they condemned the house. We were the last people that lived there before they tore it down.
Wow. Yeah, it's an old area with a lot of stuff. It's a special place. Well, Jamie, I really appreciate you speaking with me today and sharing your experiences with me. Are there any final words, any parting words that you'd like to say?
No, just enjoy the area.
Yeah, I will. Thank you very much. And I appreciate the information. I appreciate you pointing me in certain directions that can help out in my inquiries. So, Jamie Weston, thank you so much for joining me today on Type 471.
Thank you, Sam. Have a good day.
You too. If you would like to be privy to the reckoning in consciousness that is Type 471, go immediately to your preferred podcast platform and follow the show. Rate Type 471. Give it as many or as few stars as you believe it deserves. Say your piece in the comments. And share Type 471 with other people, like-minded people, people like you who can hear in my voice that I am deadly serious about delivering wondrous truths to you. So if you believe in what I'm attempting to do, make sure everybody knows just how you feel about Type 471. Finally, to share your own extraordinary experiences with me, email me at type471podcast@gmail.com. I'm Sam Kitchen. Thanks for listening to Type 471, Northern California and Southern Oregon's preferred provider of homegrown unknown. You be well, dear listener. I will speak to you next week.